All right, the table shows the daily low temperatures for Cleveland, Ohio over 5 days. You can see the days range from day 1 through day 5. The temperatures go from being positive to negative and all up and down up the board. They want to know which expression can be used to find the average daily low temperature during the 5 days. There are two things we have to consider. One of them is the steps to finding the average. You have to add to find the total and then divide by the amount of numbers being added. But then if you look at the order of operations, PEMDAS in other words, we're reminded that we have to divide before we add. So how is it that when you find the average, you're going to be able to add first if mathematically we have to divide before we add okay? And so what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for the parentheses. If it doesn't have parentheses, then you won't be able to add first, which is the proper way to find the average. So look at your options. You see, okay, 15 is positive 15, just like in the table. So far, so good. They're adding 2. That does not line up with what's in the table, so A is not your option. B, similar things. 15 is correct, but then they're adding 2. And in this situation right here, you could see that this is 5 divided by 5. We would have to do that first. There's nothing there that would allow us to add all of these up together first, even if it was the right sign. So this is not the correct option. That leaves us with option C and option D. If you look at option D, once again, the parentheses that are there are only surrounding one number. It's not going to allow us to add up everything to find our total first. Even if we checked all the signs of the numbers seem to be correct, like 15 matches 15, -2 matches -2, +8 matches +8, and so on. But without having parentheses around all of our numbers that we need to add up to find the total, then we would be forced to divide 5 by 5 first, and that breaks the rules for finding the average. Step 1, you have to add to find the total, so D is off. The only one that works is option C. Check all of the signs for each of these numbers. The signs are correct. If you look, there's brackets, which are a special kind of parentheses. It does the same thing. And this will allow us to find what's inside of the parentheses by solving that part first, which is adding everything up together, and then divide. So it'll allow us to use the rules of finding the average. Our answer is option C. All right, they want to know what value of S makes -18 minus -5 a true sentence. In other words, if you solved it, what is the answer? All right, there's a few different approaches, so let's see if we can connect how they all work together, so that way mathematically it makes sense. The simplest one that you can use is the neighbor rule. Whenever you have a negative and then, or a subtraction and then a negative that follows, and there's nothing in between them, a parentheses is not a number, then you can use the neighbor rule. So a double negative is really just a positive. So the simplest way we can solve this is to rewrite this -18 plus 5. We're not adding a -5, it's just a 5 now. Okay, now a +5 and a -18 are mixed signs. So you would subtract them and you would get 13. And then the number that's farther away from 0 wins. So that's -13 using the neighbor rules, okay? We can also look at it from another perspective. Imagine you had this is -1, this is -2, -3, and so on. We're going to create the number -18. All right, so if I have -18, and now we have to look at the subtraction sign. Subtraction means you're taking something away. So if I take away -5, that means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is -5. It's 5 negatives. Take those away. Those are gone. Okay? What's left over? If you counted these, you can see that there are 13 negatives. So my answer would be -13 using this model to represent the math. Okay, then the last model that I'm going to show you, it's the same exact problem, but after showing this method right here, I think it makes a little bit more sense on the number line to follow that. So if I start out with -18, I'm going to go from 0 down to negative 18 would be right here because it's negative 15, negative 16, negative 17, negative 18. So we're at negative 18, okay? Now there is a negative 5, so we should continue going in the negative direction, as you can see, but we're not adding another negative to make it an even more negative number. We're taking 5 of those negatives away. So what ends up happening is we go in the other direction then, all right? So negative 18, negative 17, negative 16, negative 15, negative 14, negative 13. We took 5 of those negatives away. Those are gone. So that's why we're going this direction, and we land at negative 13. So 3 different ways to show us how to do the same kind of problem, so you can see that it's all consistent with each other. We get the same answer, negative 13.